you need to make sure you're in a spot to be able to handle some heavy shit and some serious shit. Also, not to be in a spot to dump your shit on other people.
Relationships, they're meant to trigger you. They're meant to show you the parts of yourself that you need to heal.
Dating when you're sober is like a whole new level of emotional challenges. It comes with the social anxiety, the self-esteem, figuring out what to actually do when you don't drink.
Once you get into the dating world and you start experiencing emotional connection with someone else, there's a lot of things that come up that we still need to work on. Welcome to Through the Glass Recovery Podcast, where we believe that connection is the opposite of addiction, vulnerability is the antidote to shame, and personal growth is the key to loving your sober life. We're your hosts, Julie Miller and Steve Knapp. Join us in conversations with people all over the globe about how you can thrive, not just survive, in a life without alcohol.
Welcome to Through the Glass Recovery Podcast, everybody. So happy you're here. We've got Amber and Matt with us today. And of course, we just want to say thank you to all of our listeners for hanging out with us week after week. So we're here today to talk about dating in sobriety. Dating when you're sober is like a whole new level of emotional challenges. It comes with the social anxiety, the self-esteem, figuring out what to actually do when you don't drink, all of the things that we talk about here on the show. But then you've got the big old spotlight shining on it about, dating. So listeners, if you're in the dating world, you're feeling frustrated and insecure, this episode is here to remind you you are not alone. We're going to dig into some ways to make things a little bit less complicated and maybe even actually a little bit fun. So we will have Matt and Amber introduce themselves. They are both here on a pretty regular basis, so a lot of you probably know them, but just in case you're new here for the first time, we will let you get to know them a little bit first. So Amber, would you like to go first and introduce yourself?
Sure. My name is Amber. I live in Grand Junction, Colorado. Been here for a little over a year. Moved from the East Coast last September. So it's been an awesome year and coming up on 4 years sober in December, Christmas Eve. So yeah, things are going good. Got a new job and just living and loving life in the Western Slopes.
Awesome. So happy to have you here.
Yeah, it's good to be here. Always a fun time.
All right.
Okay.
And Matt, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, Matt, I am from Burnt Hills, New York, 40 years old, father of 2 kids, and I am 987 days sober, 32 and a half months.
Awesome. Cool. Happy to have you back. These guys are both regulars. This is just hanging out with friends and really excited to share this conversation with everybody out there. So we're not going to do anything super fancy, super organized. We're just going to sit here and have a conversation. Matt has been like chomping at the bit to be on the dating episode.
He is. I think he
And,
feels like he wants a 3.5 hour episode.
I feel like you better bring
Stuff.
all the drama and all the like
It-
juicy stories and awkwardness and just this is going to be like a tell-all episode. But yeah, this is kind of on you two. Steve and I are not in the dating world, so Matt, what you got? Where do you want to start, dude?
All right, so I think for the best place to start, right, with this is when's the right time to start dating in sobriety?
Mhm.
And like there's many layers of why I think this is important, but usually what you hear is like don't date within the first year. I mean, I know that's really a big thing they push with AA. But I even like my counselor in outpatient kind of was like stressing the same thing to me. So I was like a year and a half sober before I would say the idea of it really like came about like not even seriously, but maybe like just the idea of like putting feelers out there with things. And I saw a reel from another podcast on Instagram that kind of, I don't know, I'll just explain it first. So this woman was on, I guess she's like, it's like a relationship guru, whatever you want to call it. and they were talking about men's sobriety and women's sobriety dating. She said how there was a double standard for sober men and sober women, that it's harder for a sober man to date than a sober woman, basically, is what it came down to. And she just said that women, just had a hard time dealing with that and accepting that, and the concern of relapse. And she then put a big but to it. And she said, but if a man has solid sobriety, real solid sobriety, they can be very successful in dating. And I think like the timing of when I heard this, so this would have been like July of 24, August 24. I was kind of in a spot where, if you remember, we did a podcast about like emotions and stuff, and I was like stuck. And I think it was like a great timing thing for me, because it really made me pause to look at where I was personally and reflect back on where I was as far as like drinking side of me, right? And alcoholic Matt had done a lot of damage in relationships, not just my marriage, but like family, friends, everything, right? So it gave me a good chance to sit back, reflect, and see where I was, but also, I told myself at that point that if I was in a relationship, the one thing I was going to make sure that I did not do was cause problems or chaos in people's lives, right? Because most cases, there's kids involved. There's just so many other factors now that we're older than where we were years ago, like, 20s and stuff, and dating originally with stuff, or at least for where I was. I just think it was the timing was just great for me to get a good perspective of where I needed to be. And it actually ended up being it was over 2 years actually before I started. It was this past spring that really I started to truly venture into the dating world. And like, my mind's been blown many times in the last few months with, what experiences I've had. But I think that's kind of like, I guess my starting point is just to know that if anybody's listening to this, is you need to make sure you're in a spot to be able to handle some heavy shit and some serious shit. Also, not to be in a spot to dump your shit on other people that
How
don't
did you
have
know
any.
that was the spot that's how did you know that that's where you were? How did you know that you were
Like this last spring?
yeah, like you're saying be careful to
Sure.
not do the thing. Now you're dating, so you've kind of figured it out a little bit. How did you know that you were like, okay, I'm going to go and venture into these waters and dip my toes in it because I feel like I'm ready?
So I guess for me, I can't say that there was one like exact moment that changed things. When I hit 2 years, I felt like I was in a spot of just, I had accomplished a lot in sobriety, but still there was growth, but growth in a different way, right? Like, I was ready to take that next step of step aside from sobriety and growth in my personal life. Like, I was ready to share my life with somebody. So it was just more just that transition of, I'm good here on this side with sobriety. Now, what can I do on the other side of Matt's life? Like, that really was just this point of just, I can't tell you what the feeling was. It just was there. Like, there was
So
just this part of,
what I'm hearing is you had a confidence in your sobriety, in that venturing out and wanting to share your life with somebody else became that was something you wanted to explore. So you were comfortable enough in your sobriety and willing to go out there and put yourself out there, and it wasn't going to risk your sobriety at all because you were comfortable in, I've got all the things that I feel like I need, that if things went south, it wasn't going to affect your sobriety any.
perfect. Yes. Yeah.
Go ahead,
From a
June.
non-dating perspective, but I think that like level 1 of sobriety is figuring out how to deal with your own shit and figuring out who you are and what's important to you and how you're actually going to navigate this life without trying to drink it all. And like, it's all about you and your stuff and figuring you out And then level 2 of sobriety is basically all of your relationships, right? Because when you're focused just on you, you can control it all. Like, I mean, you can control yourself, right? You can control your decisions, you can control how you react, you can control how you show up. But then when you bring in other people, whether that's dating or whether that's family or whether it's friends or whoever, even like work relationships are like level 2 where there's this whole extra challenge. And I think that at least in the dating world, you have the option of bringing that extra challenge in versus, I mean, we all have to deal with our family and our kids and our stuff, but there is like it's definitely a new level of challenges because it's other humans doing other human things that you have no control over, and you have to decide how you're going to let that into your life and how it's going to impact you. What about you, Amber, as far as like knowing that you're ready to start dating? What did that look like for you? When were you like, yes, I am ready for the chaos, bring it?
Um, so for me, it's a little bit different. From the get-go, I was in a relationship. I had been in a relationship for about a month when I got sober, and it was somebody that I had knew for a long time. And then I was in that relationship for 15 months of my sobriety. And he was an active drinker as well, with, his own mixed bag of mental health issues. And so the first 15 months of my sobriety was me navigating sobriety for someone else. And then that relationship ended. And then, I continued I literally haven't been, since I started dating in my teens, I haven't gone more than a few months without having someone. And a lot of those relationships were long term, and took up a good bulk of my life, but I haven't just been me. I've always been someone's significant other, someone's plus one, you know? So I kept jumping into relationships. I jumped into another relationship, a few months after that first one ended. And that was a teaching relationship big time for me. Because, it wasn't even really a relationship. It was all of my attachment issues. It was, all of my insecurities, and still not really facing that those were there. And that, not that I am, the problem in all of these relationships, but that I am a part of the problem in all of these relationships, and having to take that accountability for my own part in the chaos, and not being able to just blame someone else for all of that. So, and then, that ended ish, and then I moved out here, and then I met somebody when I was out here last, like, around this time, November-ish or so. And it was very short, very brief, but it was a lot of the same things. It was the people pleasing. It was the making excuses for behavior, that didn't serve me, and, just all of those things. And so that ended, and I've been single now for coming up on a year. Like, no, not talking to any guys or anything like that. And so it's like, but then it's interesting because I don't know. I'd like to think that I'm ready for that. But there's still little pieces of like my own personal life and how I interact with others and like friends and making friends or work situations. Like just recently, in the new job, feeling that like shame of not knowing what I'm doing. And then like I want to cry because I feel like I'm a failure. And so I'm like, the light bulb goes off now, or I'm like, okay, that's a part of me that I still need to heal. That's a part of me that I still need to work on. And it's not to say that you have to be perfect to get in a relationship, but I'm like, that's a pretty big piece because I don't want to end up, that is, for me, it's cause for being in a relationship, and then say the behaviors on that person's behalf, right, are less than desirable. I still have, there's a little part of me that I think would still try to make excuses and try to, because I don't want to feel my own shame of feeling like a failure or another relationship failed. And so, I don't know. And then, then it's like, where do you meet people, right? Like, that's another thing in the dating world. It's like, well, I used to meet people at bars, or people would come into my work and I would meet them, or like they were mutual friends. And what do? You go out to the bar, you have a few drinks, you're like, wow, we really get along. And then, the next thing happens, and then all of a sudden we're in love and we're going to get married. So like that is,
Moved really fast.
how
Okay.
unfolded for
Whoa.
me. Well, for such a short amount of time, and then, got emotionally attached right away. And there's a lot of that people pleasing in there too. And then once I'm emotionally attached, it's like, well, I have to see this through, right? I have to, and that stems from childhood and, my parents' relationships, all of those things wrapped up in this ball of like, ah, um, so for me right now, I'm single and I realize, well, I shouldn't say I realize, I've been reminded that, I can't meet people from the couch. So um and so that it's so much more than just like dating. I mean, it is dating, but it's also such a key piece to just having a healthy social life, which is going out, doing things I enjoy, and meeting other people that enjoy those same things. And then that natural process, same as before, like going out to bars and meeting people or having a mutual friend. It's that same process. Like, oh, hey, I have a cousin who's, single or whatever. Like, but it's while I'm doing things that are healthy and while I'm doing things that are I don't know. So yeah, for me right now, like no dating whatsoever is happening. And that is a very strange experience for me. Um, but I'm kind of in it, I'm healing a lot of things by not being distracted right now. And I think it's true, like what Matt said, right? Like being in a relationship right out the gate in sobriety, it's really difficult to focus on yourself, to heal yourself, to work on all the parts that you need to work on when you're trying to entertain someone else and you're trying to build something new. If you're already in a marriage or a long-term relationship, that's a whole different ballgame, right? But meeting new people and in sobriety, yeah, it's best to really kind of take that step. You're doing this for yourself. You're doing this for you. So it's really the rest will come when it comes. That it's so important. But I think because that first chunk of my sobriety was basically a new relationship, I'm sort of like I'm in the latent phase of like I'm almost like reversed, right? Like the beginning of sobriety where I'm like, no, I'm going to be single for a year or two and really figure out my stuff, me, what makes me tick. And then, maybe start meeting people not on the couch or the Amazon.
Not on the couch.
Yeah.
No, but you want to show up like with
Yeah.
your healthiest self, right? The healthiest version of yourself that you can. And that doesn't mean perfect. And that doesn't mean you've fixed everything. We're all going to have little things that make us react that we didn't even know and we'll
Mhm.
discover along the way. And for sure, relationships, I think, bring those things up more than
Mhm.
anything else. The parts of us that we're like, oh, I need to do some work right there, right?
Yeah,
Uh,
relationships, they're meant to trigger you. They're meant to show you the parts of yourself that you need to heal, right? And being with a healthy partner, they can trigger you and you can say, I'm triggered right now. Like I have got some stuff that I've got to work on, right? And then that healthy partner can be like, okay, what can I do or not do to help you with that process? Like that's, but yeah, they're meant to trigger those things.
so, and the other half of that you just said is you need to have a healthy person on the other side, right?
Right.
So, and I would imagine that for both of you guys, you've done a lot of work. You're doing your best to be emotionally functional, emotionally healthy humans. How do you figure out if someone else is going to be able to meet you in that space? Like, I think that's an important filter, right? So, Matt, do you want to talk about
So
how do you find someone who's
Matt,
emotionally healthy?
Yeah. I was
I got
like,
a whole I
I'm
got a whole
like,
half page of notes on this
talk
stuff
about
of this
loading
one.
that gun. How do you
So
find another healthy person to meet you?
so well,
Like, I'm still unhealthy. Like, how do you meet somebody that's part way there, at least wants it, right? I guess that's the thing. Like, at least wants it
right.
probably
So
is got to be a prerequisite. I was just before you go, Matt. I was like listening to Amber talk and Julie asking Amber some questions, and I'm like, she's talking about like the healthy version of dating, and the idea comes through my mind, like we have all of these dating apps and how unhealthy a version of dating that is. It's like I'm like, so this is what I wrote down. Do you feel like dating is like online dating is an unnatural process? You talked about the natural process, you going out and living your life and doing your thing and then like naturally meeting someone. And you have this online version of it that's kind of like an all you can eat buffet, except for the food has to pick you too.
So,
Oh, true.
so two great parts here. So online dating. So, right, like my son plays baseball. I've talked about that a lot on here,
Mhm.
and all the dads ask like, "Oh, they think dating is like the greatest thing in the world." The one guy's like, "I'd be dating 20-year-olds, this, that," and I'm like, "Dude, 20-year-olds would like break you. Like you wouldn't be able to handle like what 20-year-olds are like nowadays." That's my personal feeling about it. But then like I try to explain to them like the dating app scene, right? Because I don't have time to go out and do these activities that I enjoy and try to meet people. Like the activities I go do are kids like stuff, and I know a lot about the single people there, and a lot of them I'm not dealing like no. So before I touch on that though, stick with the dating apps. I describe it as like you're driving down the highway, right? And you're looking for that fast car to park behind and cruise with, right? Like speed, like over the speed limit, right? Be like perfect car. You find one, but as you're doing that, you keep seeing other cars flying by. And it's like, ooh, that one looks good. Maybe I want to follow that one. But they might get off at next exit. And so like I'm wasting my time. I should stay with what I'm at. Or like, but and then, like that's the way of like it almost is, it's the best way I can describe it. And it's unfortunate, right? Absolutely. Because like it's hard, it's very hard. That being said, what I've learned from it, I found I've experienced three different types of people, and it's the best way I can categorize it. People who have done the work, right? Like we say we've done work, we've improved, we've worked ourselves personally, like emotionally, all these types of things to better ourselves as an individual and show up for somebody in this situation. There's the ones who say they've done the work. They've listened to a podcast, they've read a book, they're inspired by something. They use trendy terms, but they have not done what they need to do to show up for somebody else because they still can't show up for themselves. And then there's the third person who has no fucking clue what the work is. And they think that like, oh, my last relationship was that person's fault, all them. I'm good. And it's like you're not, right? The reality is you're dating, you're 30, 40 years old, you're single, you've had stuff happen in your life, probably not good stuff, but things that you need to sort out, figure out so that you can, like I said, show up for yourself and somebody else. And dating apps don't show you those things, right? You're looking at pictures, purely pictures. That's what you're choosing on. I don't care what anybody says, it's pictures. I've found that after like 2 or 3 true conversations with somebody, you can figure them out and know where to go from there. And I feel like that's the same way. But dating apps are horrible, and that's my experience as far as like people out there
So
of
you're
where they
saying
are.
at least lean toward the more natural process, not the speeding down a highway and hoping you don't get a ticket.
I mean, my car hasn't completely crashed and blown up yet, but we've had some close experiences.
Still driving down the highway. Okay. All right.
So
Maybe in the spare tire, but that's okay.
I mean, I
but
feel
for,
like your first try, you kind of got a couple of tickets.
oh yeah, we got some body work done.
Right?
But like there really is no other choice. Like I go to the grocery store, but like you're not going to hear that fairy tale of like, oh, in the produce section I bump carts into somebody and it's like, ooh, it just doesn't work like that because this is how people are in the grocery store, right? If you're looking at your phone no matter what, it's just not going to happen. It's just for me, I don't see it happening. I'll put it that way.
Like bumping to someone in the grocery store? Is that what you mean by you don't see it happening?
Yeah. No. Nope.
There's literally a country song about that, just saying.
I will say No, I was just gonna say, I will say, on the topic of online dating, for me, I found interesting. I find that it's somewhat of a safe space to practice interacting with other people. And I say that because I had an experience where I matched with this guy. He reached out to me. He liked one of my photos. We had some basic, normal conversation that I felt was kind of normal. And then in the conversation, I had thrown out, oh, I had the new job and I was going outside of my comfort zone, and how being outside my comfort zone was kind of my jam now that I'm sober. And because in his profile, it stated that he didn't drink. And so I brought up the sobriety. And it turns out this guy just doesn't drink, never has, never had a problem with it. And that's a whole different kind of dynamic and what's the word I want to use? Like stigma, if you will. It's like you've got, so anyways, my point is he didn't drink, and so that conversation went very interestingly because he said, and even though I don't drink, he's like, I hope that you're able to like keep up with this for the lifetime. He's like, because even though I don't drink, that horrible disease that you have is is a really hard, like, it was just very negative, the view of recovery and having a substance use disorder. And I took it as, an opportunity to then
What did he
talk
say to you,
about.
though, Amber? What did he say to you? He said something to you that was like
Yeah,
interesting.
well, he said, yeah, he's like, I hope you're able to kick it for the long haul, because that awful, that terrible disease that you have is a lifetime battle, or,
Yeah, didn't he say
something like
something
that.
like what the heck was it?
Oh, right. He said,
Yeah,
and he said, unfortunately, historically, I have a tendency of
that's it.
attracting alcoholics.
Yeah. Look at Matt's
Yes.
face.
So, so here I am right now. And that's why I say, like, online dating. So I'm in this kind of this space where I can practice. First of all, I'm checking my own temperature. How do I feel about these comments, right? Because that's important, and that's the work that I'm trying to do to be able to be a healthy partner. Is how do I feel about that statement? In the past, I would have felt attacked. I would have felt like I needed to defend myself, or that I was a good person, or this, that, and the other thing. And I didn't feel that immediately. So I'm like, okay, that's growth. But now I can do it like behind a screen and not like at dinner awkwardly, So, I mean, it has its pros and cons. But, anyways, I took it as an opportunity to, now I'm like, okay, now I'm finding my voice. And I took the opportunity to then express, because it's going to come up again, right? This isn't the only person that I'm going to. How do I feel about my sobriety? What is my view on recovery? I haven't really had a lot of those conversations. So, unless it was with other people in recovery. And so it was kind of my opportunity to find my voice and really kind of hone in on how I feel about recovery. And I kind of said something along the lines of, like, in regards to historically tracking alcoholics, I said, could I possibly suggest to you another perspective? And that perspective is that, like, he's a respiratory therapist. So I said, maybe you're just a good person. And people who are hurting tend to migrate to good people because they're looking for someone to get rid of their pain, or we're either looking for someone to get rid of our pain, or we end up in toxic relationships because we're looking for something to distract us from our pain, right? Those are kind of our two avenues of what we're needing. And so I said, basically, like, we're human beings. So there's that. And then I just explained, recovery, how I saw it, and that it's just an amazing opportunity to reinvent yourself without the shackles, of a substance. But I don't know. So in online dating, there's that little bit of like, hey, I can kind of experiment with having conversations with people, deciding for myself what are those first, because I always had a trouble with red flags. They're like party favors, right? We all know that meme. Like, red flags are party favors for me. I'm like, oh, right. Um, like, oh, he texts me like every 5 seconds and he gets upset when I don't text him back. He really cares about me. That's amazing. So, so like learning, how to interact in those early stages for me is something that I have found beneficial because I do tend to, in the past I've historically attached very quickly, and now I'm learning how to get to know somebody, decide for myself if I like what I'm seeing. It's like window shopping, right? And then, oh, if I like that enough, like maybe I will go in and I will check it out and I will see if the price is worth, me investing in that. So for, and that aspect, I found online dating to be sort of a safe experiment, as far as interacting with people, just in general, and then you get to take it out into the real world.
It's like practice ground. You just get to see how your skills are and play around with them. Go ahead, Matt.
I would say I find this fascinating because one other thing that I'd written down was about how online dating is very different for men and women. I think we just kind of heard that right there, right? Like it is a very different experience. I'm dealing with a car flying by, and she gets to deal with like I get to pick and choose, like very selectively of where it is. Because reality of the situation is men are just going, what, yep, just hoping that some woman is going to be connected with them, like swipe the same way they do and they'll connect. Where I feel like, from what I've been told and had conversations I've had, women have then all these men that like them that they get to sort through and selectively choose. So it is a very different perspective and just situation for that. And I think that's an important thing for people to know too, because I guess if I think about like, again, early sobriety, if I was doing this and really like worried and I'm on this dating app and I'm like, I'm not connecting with anybody. What is wrong with me? Right? It's instantly, that's what it's going to be. Now, if something goes wrong, I'm just like, all right, whatever. Like,
Not
again,
meant to be.
most likely the when you get in a relationship, it's not going to work out. That is what statistics say. And if you accept that, like, obviously that's not what you want to go into thinking, but that is what truly is most likely going to happen, unfortunately. The second thing I had, though, off of what Amber was saying is I used to put, I think, don't drink or sober, like in like the checkbox next to drinking. But now actually like in my profiles right away, it says sober, living a life of recovery. First thing I say, put out there. And the reception has been completely different. Now I make sure when I first start talking to somebody, I'm like, you get this part like very early on and understand it. But before, it was one of those things like, well, what do you mean? You just don't drink now? Like they just didn't understand what that meant. But also as I've, had conversations and gone on dates and dated people, you see the impact that addiction has on people's lives too. Like once people have the conversations, they start to realize there's people in their lives, their family, friends that, oh, maybe that's them, and takes a very different perspective of you or their view on you and what it might be or not be. So those are just some things there that I had about that part. Red flags. I mean,
The look on
right,
Matt's
okay,
face, red flags.
So I guess here we'll really like flip the script here. First relationship. We'll talk about the good part first, right? Prior to getting into my first relationship, I was with my counselor one day, and therapist, and she was like, "Well, you happy?" And I was like, "I have moments of happiness, like comes and goes, but right, joy, happiness, whatever way you want to put it." And I said, "But there's nothing like consistent with it." So I match with somebody, we start talking, seem to hit it off pretty well, and you talk about feeling of happy, you talk about pink cloud and recovery. I was like in the pink cloud of relationship.
I
Like,
was
this
just
is
about to write that
awesome.
question
Yes,
down.
you were.
Good
I was
all the
just about to
time.
write that
Like,
question down.
life was good.
Matt was
And
glowing.
I'll
at
start
that
with this
point.
part of it. That enabled me, though, to have a conversation with my ex-wife. And I think this is a very important thing that it gave to me. And it gave me the perspective first of understanding how shitty things must have been for her, right? Dealing with me, the addiction, all that stuff, everything crumbling, like our lives both crumbled. To when she found out it was her current husband, And I remember her having this conversation to me while I was actively still drinking about how great he was and this, and that. I'm like, what the F? And it hurt, and I was angry, and all these things of like, why are you telling me this stuff? But when it was on the flip side and I was experiencing those same feelings, it gave me the understanding of where she was and like actually being happy for her, like that she was able to find that. Right. And we were at my daughter's soccer in the spring, and like we had a pretty good conversation, I'll say. She'll probably say it was a great conversation because it was like 2 minutes, and she's like, all right, enough. Like I think she was like appreciative of it, but she's just not that warm and fuzzy type of conversation, to have about those things anymore. But that was something that I'm very grateful to get from this. The second part of it is I'm glad that I had solid sobriety to go through that relationship. And you talk about red flags, and I'll start with this part. First time I met this woman, we met for coffee. My left eye twitched the whole time we were there. And I'm talking to her, I'm like, man, my eye's going crazy. Like, what is going on? And I'm just like, sure, nerve, something, whatever. Now looking back, it's like, trust what your body's telling you. Like, it was like, something's not right. Like,
Your
she
poor
may seem
nervous
great,
Symptoms
system
like,
was
shut it down, shut it down.
Something's not right, but Matt's eating the apple anyway.
but run, right? And
Right.
and so before we get into like that whole thing, and you guys know a lot about that, and we can talk. It's pretty much about whatever you want with that part of it. So it ended, and I ended up actually. She sent me a picture. We ended up talking again, and we met in person just to like talk it out. The whole time, my forehead just. I go, I'm good. This was the closure I needed. Like, thank you very much. So that's why I say, like, if you get a gut feeling with things, it's probably true that something is not right, or that, it might not be what it seems. But yeah, like there's people out there that you think are great, but this one was not. There's just so much to say. And I think the first, like, being able to go back and reflect on it, I understand like a lot more of it now, right? As the relationship was going on, things like Amber said about like wanting to talk and ask how you're doing, and oh, they were upset. Like all these things you see are bad stuff, right? That's some type of insecurity in the relationship. Not to get into attachment styles, like all that fun stuff. Because truly, this woman questioned me about it, and I asked you about it, right?
Mhm.
Like I was like, where is this? Like this is new stuff to me. What is this? All this? And so it was just a ton. But like early on in the relationship, she wanted to put a title to it and wanted commitment. And that first time relationship is like, oh, this is great. Like this is easy. Like I'm looking for this. Look what fell in my lap. Again, not necessarily a great thing. She wasn't close with her family or friends. Red flag, right? The way she would talk about like situations like with work to me, and then like I would watch her with those other interactions with people and be the complete opposite. Red flag. Couple other things. What it boils down to is she was a narcissist. We were working together one day, and I was listening to a Jefferson Fisher podcast about narcissists. And I'm listening to this thing, and by that point, I knew like something's going on. I just don't know what it is yet, right? I couldn't figure out what it was, and it hit me, and I went like turned left at her, and I was like, "Holy shit!" Like, oh my God, what did I get into? And like like in the podcast, he describes behaviors, all these things. So like I'm trying to like test her and question her, like, and it's just like check, yep. Foolish me. It's not that bad, right? Like I was like, this, now I know I can deal with it. Obviously couldn't. It blew up. It blew up bad. I think, I don't think, I know. The part, so slow down a little bit my thoughts here. Because you guys, we like once I really nailed it, the Monday night group, like we talked extensively about it afterwards. And like, I'm not breaking up with her. Because like the one thing like that I had heard is like the narcissists they basically want to break you so you break up with them. And I'm like, I am not fucking doing that. And I said, I'm
She is
too
not
strong
no
for
one
that.
admit.
Stubborn recovery person, huh?
Oh God, right?
I will not be
And
at fault for this.
like she was like throwing all these things at me, like nasty stuff, like to try to cause fights because they want like this. It's just chaos, like gaslighting. I was questioning my sanity on things, even though like I knew factually, like this is what happened. Like I said this, you said that, and it was just like all the complete opposite chaos of stuff. Didn't end well. Learned a lot of stuff about myself, a lot about people. I remember the night, Steve, when I was on the phone with you driving down to get my stuff from her. And she didn't understand why I wanted it that night. I'm like, I want nothing to do with you. And I said, I don't understand how people can behave like this. And you said to me, picture yourself as an alcoholic before you do it, or something to that extent. And I remember like this feeling inside of me that was just like, oh my God. Like I felt so sorry for her. Like to be going through life this way and not even realizing it, that like you're the one who's the problem. And out of that relationship, I think that was the hardest thing for me to like come to terms with, is that somebody was dealing with this and there was nothing that I could do. And then I took that and I thought about the people in my life that watched me go through the same thing and couldn't do a thing about it. And being on the other side of it and being able to like see that, that was very hard. Like that took time to be okay with.
Yeah.
What you're saying is once you get into the dating world and you start experiencing emotional connection with someone else, there's a lot of things that come up that we still need to work on, that bring up pieces of our past and that bring up bits and pieces that you don't get to experience unless you start trying to share bits and pieces of you with someone else and learn about them and have them learn about you, and then you test out this communication and you get all your triggers triggered, a whole bunch of them, ones you think you're comfortable with because you're on your own, you've got your kind of stuff figured out, and you venture out into this world of other people with other things that have their own problems and all of that stuff. And the emotional intertwinement of how much of their problems become my problems now, and how much of my problems become their problems now. And then what parts of, like you talk about the reflection of, you know, opening up that basket of thought of, this is how I was to other people 3 years ago. And I was that person that didn't see that I had the problem. And then you get to kind of like, you feel sorry for yourself in a way because you couldn't see your ass from the hole in the ground. And then you feel the guilt of being the person who put a bunch of other people in that same situation.
It's like a flood of uncomfortable emotions. You've got like a deep remorse, which is a hard emotion to sit with, and the guilt and probably the shame, and also just like that grief of how long you sat in that space without even realizing it, how much you lost to it. And so, yeah, again, our interactions with other people in any respect, like, shine a light on parts of us that we obviously still need to sit with and navigate and heal from. That's a big one, though. I remember when you were there and you were just like, holy shit. Like that one hung around for a while.
Yes.
And for real, like being solid in your sobriety, right? Because that's the first thing that we all wanted to do when we were drinking or early in sobriety was, oh my God, this emotion is so uncomfortable. I don't think I can handle it. I'm going to go drink to numb it. And you were in a place where that's not going to happen anymore. It wasn't an option. So you actually did navigate the pain. But that's a lot of pain that you weren't expecting. Do you think you can go into any situation and you're like, all right, even if we break up, I'm going to be okay because I can handle a breakup. You're not expecting like being slapped upside the head with
Your own emotional baggage.
your own shit, right?
You
Like,
know?
I'm just picturing this bag of stuff just getting of smoking you upside of the head.
I just remember being on the highway, like when you said that, I'm just like, oh, like just hitting me, like, and you know, still like, because I go to work that way. There's certain days like I just be thinking about stuff, and I just remember that night, and just like that feeling, like I, it's just crazy. Like again, just you never thought something like that, and it was just wow. But like, it's great to be able to reflect back on it now. Like that's just like a very hard experience, but it's just like everything we've gone through. Like I wouldn't trade it for anything now, because
Mhm.
it's you know, brought such great perspective to it.
For sure.
Okay, we're getting closer to the end of this episode, and I don't want to.
Matt is like, wait, I have so much more to say.
I know. And I mean, you
We
can't
can also go
have.
long if we need to go long.
Yeah, we can't have a dating episode without talking about. We always have the emotional intimacy. But what about the physical part? Everyone wants to know this, but no one wants to talk about it.
That's
So
a
I'm
true
gonna
story.
load the it's fact, right? Like
We've actually gotten messages from people like, would you please just do an episode on sex?
sex. This is fair. This is a
Like
thing.
like
Sober
we
sex.
get, I think that's been requested more times than other episodes. So if either of you want to share anything about how you do that without being drunk first. Neither one of them knew that this was going to come up. I didn't know this was going to come up until just now.
All right, so
Matt's diving in. I like it.
Yeah.
all right, so again, gonna go back to the same podcast I talked about previously, talking about like the difference between sober men, sober women dating. Also remember there was one, I don't know if this is the same episode or not, but it did talk about sex, and just about like the idea of like sober sex is so scary, right? Because the majority of us, again, go back 20 years, like, you know, when you're first back in the dating world, most cases it was not like that. So I guess the one experience I will talk about is that blew my mind with dating, with that side of it, was like being asked, like, is this okay to do this? What do you feel like about this? Like talking about what you like and don't like with sex. Like the first time, like she asked me, something, I'm like, what? Like what? Like what are we doing? Like this is not how this goes. Um,
It's all supposed to
but
be a mystery.
but just whatever, right? You just kind of go with it. But it was another one of those things that like it opened my eyes to like be the ability to talk about like what you enjoy, what you don't enjoy, like brings it next level, right? And since then, I've been able to be more open about it with people and with women, and ask like, is this okay? What is this like? What do you like? What don't you like? Right? Because I see what it did for me, and it's just one of those things. Like, okay, maybe talk about it here, but help people realize like what it can do for them. Like a lot of the things on here, right? Like you don't realize it until someone starts talking about it. But I don't know. I think it's great. Like I really do. Like you don't wake up in the morning and like, oh, I don't remember this. Did I do that? Like, I don't know. Like it's scary the first time maybe, but it's not rocket science, right? Like, I mean, I don't know. There's other parts of dating that I'm more concerned about than having to navigate like intimacy in that part of it with that. I'll say that much.
That's
I'll
valid.
agree.
That scare me more.
Right. I was just thinking when you were talking, Matt, I was like, it like the word communication, like it literally permeates every aspect. Like it's so important in every single aspect of relationships is just communication and talking, about, like you said, do you like this? Do you not like this? I mean, because that's the way to get to next level, is like, because if you're just sitting there and like your partner is doing something you kind of just don't really love, it's hard to have that conversation. But there's a lot of hard conversations that we have to have, and in doing so, it can turn out better, or at least you're going to know where you stand. that being able to say, I really am not crazy about that. That gives like your partner, your poor partner's there doing this thing that he thinks you absolutely love. And, he's completely blinded to the fact that he's not actually pleasuring you the way that you want to be pleasured. Right. So communication, as weird as it sounds, and it's a hard conversation to have, it definitely makes things more intimate. Now both parties are actively engaged, in doing things that are enjoyable. And I'll say for me, like, so when I was actively drinking, one of the things that was noticeable was that I was not an initiator. I couldn't like get in the mood unless I was drinking. And that was something I struggled with for a long time while I was drinking, and I didn't understand why, because I didn't understand how alcohol affects the brain and hormone and everything, right? All of the chemical processes. Um, and so in sobriety, right? Because it's like you're not numbing anything, the good or the bad. And so now in sobriety, I'm like, oh, like now like I can understand like my own like femininity and my own like desire to want to do those things and like be able to be like, hey, like I want to do this thing. Um, and so that's kind of wild, because I for years just thought there was something wrong with me. Uh, and really it was just the alcohol was just suppressing, and once like the other person initiated, like science just takes over and now you're like, ooh, all right, here we go. So yeah, so that's just an interesting aspect of it as well. The sex drive comes back when you quit drinking because like you're not numbing yourself
Definitely.
to all of that, right? Like the good and the bad. So, but yeah.
I would
The,
imagine
the,
too, like the emotional, and we all know that emotional intimacy is
Mhm,
necessary for good physical intimacy. And if you're drinking, or if you're, I mean, even just without healing, right? Like the alcohol, fine, but most of us were just showing up in our lives that in a way that didn't allow for emotional intimacy. But once you can start, showing up in your life and with that person in a vulnerable way, and you can build emotional intimacy, that's got to reflect then
mhm.
on the physical intimacy part.
Yeah.
yeah, I don't think there's anything that's like secret about it. I really don't. I think though, like, yeah, like once it all goes back, like once you're good with yourself, you're really like, it just opens the doors for so many of these other things. It really does. And it just is, yeah, communication for sure. Um, and with mentioning communication, there's something else I'm going to bring up here because this is something like every woman said to me or brought up about the feeling safe in a relationship. And like, I don't know if I can really like articulate what it means for them, but it's something that's been brought up every time. And I really didn't understand it. Like, I'm like safe, like, yeah, we're not like, I'm not going to hurt you. Like it's a different type of safety or feeling safe, I think, than what, as I say it, most people are probably thinking. So I don't know if that's something like you guys can elaborate on for other people, but it's something that's always been talked about with me and then always brought of um that they feel safe with me.
I
I
mean,
don't
I
know,
can
maybe
talk
there
about what
is, there
emotional
isn't, but
safety looks like. Yeah, for sure. I think that if I've been in so many situations that felt emotionally unsafe, and I think what that means is if you're going to show up vulnerably, you're going to speak honestly about how you're feeling. You're going to show up in ways that are a little bit scary, like you're going to express yourself in ways that the other person could respond in a way that's hurtful. They could end up shaming you. They could end up putting you down. They could end up invalidating you, telling you you shouldn't feel that way or whatever. That becomes an unsafe situation versus being able to express what you're feeling, express what you're experiencing, share what's on your heart, and being met with someone who can hold those feelings with you, who can sit in those feelings with you and make you feel like they're going to sit with you there and help you navigate them instead of making you feel like you should shut them down and put them away. And I can totally see how you would be that, Matt, because you're pretty good at sitting with people in whatever emotions they're having. Like, I mean, we see that with you every Monday when we're hanging out. But so many women, and I think this is like a society cultural issue where women express what they're feeling and men are like, well, why do you feel that way? Oh, you shouldn't feel that way. Oh, you need to do this and then you won't feel that way anymore and you just get shut down. And you're like, okay, well, this isn't a place where I can talk about what I'm feeling. And then that becomes unsafe. I think that's probably what they're referring to, if that makes
Yeah.
sense.
Yeah. The emotional security. Yeah.
And that's the difference between somebody who's emotionally available and somebody who's not emotionally available. When someone's not emotionally available, when they're not able to handle their own emotions, they certainly can't handle yours. I think that's probably key for the dating world in general is you need to be able to find someone who can handle their own emotions, who can experience them, who can name them, who can feel their way through them, not just shut them all down, right? Like that's just basic, normal, healthy emotional intelligence. And I think, we had talked early on about how do you find someone who is emotionally intelligent or emotionally intact enough that it's going to be a good, safe dating relationship.
Yeah. Yeah. The
Well,
ability to just show up vulnerably, and to be with somebody who's emotionally healthy enough to even just to be honest, right? Like that's where the emotional intelligence, because even to just be with a partner who is like, okay, like I see what's going on, I see what's happening. I don't know, what if anything I can do. If there's something, please tell me, and if not, then I can just be with you and allow you to just be in that space, and I don't need anything or expect anything from you in that time. Like you can just have that time to work through whatever it is. So that's hard, right? Finding someone who's equal, I think that's what it comes down to. Finding someone who is at least at our same level of understanding what I'm going through has nothing to do with you, and what I'm feeling doesn't necessarily have anything. Yes, you might have said something that pissed me off, upset me, triggered me, but I don't need the defense. I need someone who doesn't put the shield up, right? And can say, okay, what's going on? What's really going on here, right? Do you want to talk about this? Do you want to process this? Like meeting someone that is your equal, at least in that regard, I think that's where that safety comes from.
Mm-hmm.
and I
Otherwise, you're
just got
just keeping it all inside and you're not saying anything because you don't want their defenses to go up. You don't want that argument. You don't want that chaos. And so you just keep it all inside because you're not in an emotionally safe relationship. And then that just backfires.
And not necessarily just explode or defenses or whatever, but also shut down. Right.
Yeah.
I think that's the other
Right.
version of emotionally unavailable is you try to express something and they just shut down, check out, and they're done. So, I mean, it can go either way. It can be the explosive side or it can be the shutdown side, but either way. Matt, what you got?
well, I was gonna say, I think we talked about I talked about like the bad side. I think I would like to touch base like on the good side of things, right? Like I've had some good relationships, and I actually reached out to two women before this and was just like doing a podcast about relationships. Don't know if I'm going to say anything about specific about like the time we were seeing each other, but this is that's what I'm doing. I'm not going to use names or anything like that. But there's two that both ended where it was just like, well, the one I feel like I self-sabotaged because I just knew it wasn't right and didn't know how to end it. Got something to do with me right there with that part. But the other one, it was just like things didn't work out and they didn't work out. It's okay. But on both sides, there's still this like you can reach out and talk to them like this. And as I was actually thinking about this today, like two very great women, like good people. And I know like if I'm in a shit spot in life, I can still pick up the phone and get like talk to them and ask for help if I need help. Like you can end relationships, you can date people and end relationships and still,
Not have it be sour.
there you go. Yes.
Not have the
Like there's
resentment on either side. Just have some sort of mutual respect along the
right.
way.
Right. Like these two women, like I think for they meet the right person, those guys are going to be like it's going to be great for them. Like, and it's, you know, it's encouraging to meet people like that, especially after what I went through the first time. And that, like, I don't know, I guess just put it out there because like there's a lot of bad, but there is good. So like if there is people listening to this who just have had bad experiences, give them some hope that there is still good people out there.
Yeah.
Um, so,
And it doesn't
I
have to
think
be a lifelong commitment for it to have been a good experience. That's what I'm
right.
hearing you say.
And that had to be like pointed out to me too, like by one of them, because I'm just like, well, it didn't work. And it's like, but was it fun while it was lasted? And I'm like, yeah. And then like, did you feel like you wasted time? And I said, no. And they're like, then what? What's so bad about it? I was like, damn, like, you know, those things that you don't know till until you experience it. And there are some of those like good things like that had to be pointed out to me that, yeah, like, I mean, I had a really good summer, you know, and, you know, I'm not with that person anymore, but like, we had fun, like, I had a good time. And it was, you know, something that is probably one of the better summers I've had in a long time with things. So,
Mhm.
you know, there's hope for everyone out there.
You also said something important that I'm gonna call attention to. You were like, "I think I self-sabotaged this." So, I think it's so important to be able to reflect back and be like, "What part did I have in that?" That's how we grow. So, even in a relationship that didn't work out, like in that case, you're not like, "Damn her, she did this and she did that." Like, the blame thing drives me crazy because so many of us do that. And instead, you're like, okay, well, it didn't work out. What can I learn from this? What did I do that impacted this situation? And how can I learn from it and grow? And there's so much power in that. And there's also courage in that because the easy thing is to look at all the things that were wrong with them and be like, this is why it didn't work. So I think that that's something that I think people can carry away with this is if it doesn't work out, have the courage to be honest with yourself about what part you played in the fact that it didn't work out because that's how you're going to learn and grow and get better at life and relationships in general.
you also get to own the part that you played in how it worked out while it was working out,
Right.
right? Like
Well,
Definitely.
like,
you get to take both sides of that, but I mean, when a relationship just goes freaking sour and doesn't work out, it's not all the other person's fault because there is always something we can own in how a relationship goes sour. Whether we didn't speak up when we needed to speak up, whether we I don't know. There's so many different ways that you can own how a relationship has gone wrong. If we're just sitting there blaming someone else, and I don't care if they did one thing that was really bad, there's so many more levels to that where you can take responsibility for something and then learn from that. It's just there's a lot of learning opportunity in something that didn't work out,
well, that was
positive
like
and negative.
Mhm.
with it in the relationship. It was like I was being selfish, trying to like knowing it wasn't going to be like perfect. It wasn't right. It wasn't like the fit, but trying to protect it because, well, it kept me with somebody. Right. And like afterwards, like I was like explaining that to her and as I do kind of like figuring it out as I'm saying it. And she's like, you don't have the right though to make that decision for me.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Because yes, it's keeping me safe with this thing, but it's like I don't get to hold her hostage at the same time. And I was like,
Mm-hmm.
fuck, I didn't realize that. Like, you know, but it is though. It's like I felt horrible in that situation, but like unfortunately it's a crappy way to have to learn that like, yeah, I don't get to make that choice for someone else. Like I don't get to do those things. But that's part of this as well, like just these things you don't know and it's what do you do the next time? You know, and it's hard though because I'll say this too is when her and I had some really great like conversations about stuff, like very just talk about someone who's done the work like on themselves and just very like good human of where they are in life. Like she is one of those. She was saying about basically like she was tired of being the one that people learn from to then apply to the next relationship. And like she had said that early on and then that happened and I was just like had that feeling of like, man, I failed here, right? And I felt like that was like a hard thing too, again, to grow through and just and feel those things. And it's there was a gentler way to go
That's
about it that
also
would.
something she needs to take responsibility for.
I was just gonna say, I was gonna wait for
Just
Matt to
saying.
finish and be like, that's also something she
That's
needs
something she needs
to
to take
address.
responsibility for. You know, if it happens once, that's fine. But if it happens over and over and over again, that's a trend that requires a look in the mirror.
Mhm.
I'm not even knocking her, because it probably means she's got a big heart,
Very.
right?
Mhm.
Yeah.
But
I
we
was
all
gonna
have our
say too,
things,
when you
man. We all
talked
have our
about
things.
when you talked about, taking responsibility for the good, as well, and what you bring to a relationship, it just reminds me of something that's kind of stuck with me is Peter Crone, the mind architect, right? He is giving this seminar one time, and he's talking about relationships and loves. And one of the things that he says is like, when you're in a relationship and you lose that relationship, or that relationship is no longer, like, you feel like you've lost something, and he's like, but it's not like the other person is there and they're a partner in that, at that time and at that point in that journey, but it is actually who we are in that relationship that we fall in love with, and that it's like, it isn't the person that matters. And that's a really hard, like, a different way to look at things, because we identify this one person, and that's, what I would do is like, oh my gosh, this one person is the most important person in my life, and without them, like, who am I, right? And so what I'm learning, right, in being single and eventually, like, with the dating, is that whatever happens, like, the good that comes out of me in that relationship and the growth, and the more I love myself through that relationship, that I take with me. The person might not be that person in that journey anymore, but I haven't lost everything that I think that I've lost. And I think that that's just an important thing to look at in relationships going forward, is that you take the growth, you take the love, all of the ways that you are, the nurturing person you are, the caring person that you are, and you still carry that with you. And then you just, meet somebody else, like the idea of permanency, letting that go a little bit in life in general. I've learned that is that there is no guarantee on anything, absolutely nothing. And letting go of that control of the permanency, I think, allows us to just meet other human beings in general. And like Matt said, like, you're still friends with people that or a good terms with people that you've had a romantic involvement with, because you're approaching it from a place of, I'm just out here meeting human beings. And some of those human beings are going to fall into the category of lifelong friends. Some of those human beings are going to fall into the category of lessons learned, and some of them fall into the category of romantic relationships, right? And there's no guarantee when you meet somebody where they're going to fall. That's just comes from not being afraid to just explore and experiment and be vulnerable, and then figure out where it's at when it gets to where it's at. So I feel like that's where I'm at in life, is just learning how to navigate being social, meeting other human beings, engaging with them on their level, seeing if they're engaging with me on my level. Are we a match? Friendship, relationship, acquaintance, like, understanding all of that is, I think, just a really cool place that I'm at in my life right now. So, and I think it's a valuable process, part of the process. So I think in the long run, it's hard, especially early in sobriety, and we're navigating all of our emotions, and we feel alone, and we want a partner, and we want somebody to watch that movie with and snuggle with, and tell us that everything is okay. And what I found is that the more I learn how to meet my own needs, like, even in friendships, like, what need do I have that this person isn't meeting, and that's why I'm upset with them, learning all of that stuff, it makes it a little less lonely, because then you're like, okay, like, I'm gonna meet somebody really cool or good, that's just like a great partner on this journey and just like side by side, but we're each living our lives. It's like at the end of the day, it's my life. And it doesn't matter who I'm with. I could be with somebody for 50 years. It's still my life. I'm the only one experiencing everything that I'm experiencing. I can share that with another human being, but it's still my life. So that's just, yeah, kind of where I'm at as far as realizing that.
Awesome. I love that. Matt, do you have anything else you're wanting to throw out there? So make sure we don't like cut off any of the cool stuff you wanted to talk about. It's like pages
so
of
many
stuff.
notes.
No. So this is just whatever. So some terms that are used nowadays with dating that I thought were fascinating. Ghosting, I think we all kind of know what that is, but the slow burn, that was one that was new to me, right? Like they slowly stop talking to you and then all of a sudden just disappear instead of like ghosting quickly. And then a situationship,
Mm-hmm.
right? This was another thing that was
Is
brought up where
situationship not just like a fear of commitment? Isn't that what that is? That's like we're dating, but I don't actually want to commit to you, so we're going to call it this instead.
Is that not just friends with benefits? Is that not
That's
the
what that
same
sounds
thing?
like
Yeah.
to me.
Yeah.
or it's just like, oh, you live close, it's convenient, it works.
So that's
Like
friends
it's
with benefits, essentially. Like
sure, but you
it's
might not even be friends though. Like that's part
Yeah.
of
You're
it too,
just
right? You know what I mean? Like
Literally
that's
just
just
the
one of
benefits.
those.
Acquaintances with benefits.
you're just fucking to fuck.
Wow, thank you, Steve.
Well,
I mean,
all we're doing is beating around the bush here.
there's no
Okay.
intention.
But just some terms of like just things that was just like, oh,
Yeah.
so
New
no,
stuff.
Yeah.
you got a lot of stuff there.
Yeah, I think we covered a lot of ground. I was going to ask you guys to like reflect on like what's one of the biggest positive things that has come out of sobriety, or no, I'm sorry, not out of sobriety, out of dating sober. I think we've already kind of touched on that, but do you guys want to throw something out there? Like, what's the best thing that has come out of dating sober for you?
For me, hands down, the best thing that's come out of dating sober for me is having the experience and having the negative experience even really build that muscle of I really am okay. Like, I'm really sad, I'm really hurt, this person ghosted me, right? Going through those questions like what what is it about me? But then being the person, not going elsewhere for that, but being the person who then also steps in, the other voice of me for myself, having that clarity to be able to be like, it's not you. This is how this person chose to handle it because this person is not capable of X, Y, and Z. So being able to go through the heartache and also be the person that comes to my rescue, that honestly has been such a great experience because I know now I can just go out and experiment and it might not be great, but I'll be okay. And then I'll just go out and experiment more. And so it's removed a lot of that fear that like I am gonna be alone. So yeah, the negative experiences of dating in sobriety have taught me that I am okay. And I get stronger and stronger each time. And each time I learn things a lot sooner.
Mhm.
So
And
yeah.
you can count on yourself. You've
And I
learned
can count on
that
myself.
you can count on you to take care of you. Awesome. What about you, Matt? What's the
Yeah.
best part of dating sober? All those notes, and Matt didn't come prepared for this one.
I don't have anything for that one as far as notes. Like I think just the ability to show up for me. And being comfortable showing up. Because that was like when I think about younger me, like that was like so hard. Like to put myself out there with someone, right? And just like be vulnerably be, completely honest of like who I am, where I am in life. And much to kind of like where Amber was saying with things where it's like if it doesn't end up well, like I'm still like good with it. And I think for me, it says a lot of from where I was to where I am now in life.
Mhm.
Right. And I think that if I'm going to go with any of this, it goes back to kind of my first point of like solid sobriety and like just knowing whatever comes of all of this, I'm going to be okay. Right. End of the day, I'm going to be okay with things. So I would say that's going to be where I'll go with that answer.
Yeah,
One of the
awesome.
things that I love that I got from both of you, or that we got from both of you, was in a world today that tries to pit men against women and women against men, both of you have hope. Both of you shared hope. Both of you shared growth. Both of you aren't like, I ain't doing this shit. Fuck this. I don't need whatever. Like, you both very much still want connection when the right connection shows up in your life and you're willing to explore it. And I appreciate the fact that even with opportunities of being and becoming jaded through bad experiences, you're not letting that change your overall outlook in a negative way. And I honestly think that's super important. That shares hope. It shares the fact, it shares your growth is what it shares. If you were sitting there stuck in in a piece of hate or victimhood, you're failing to move through the pieces that you need to move through to see the hope on the other side. So Amber and Matt, thank you for showing up and sharing your experiences and your hope, and even some of the vulnerable bits, because I loaded that one without preparing both of you guys. But I seriously think that it was cool that you both found the courage to share a little bit. So thank you guys for the time. Always appreciate having you on, and have yourself a good rest of your day.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks.
Thanks for having us, guys. Great conversation, Matt.
You too. Thanks.